letting go of some of the control stuff is is big because I mean it's almost good in some ways that you're here because you don't know what is going to be right. I feel like before you kind of probably thought you knew what was going to be right, and now you're just like, no, I don't know, I have no clue. So it's almost a good place because now you can be like, all right, let me we're just seeing what what happens. You can be open to more things, and you're not framing it off of what you thought it was going to be anymore. So that can be a freedom.
In a podcast dedicated to vulnerability, it can be really tempting for me to want to engage with it academically and only academically. I see this as a danger that I really want to avoid moving forward. With my guests, my intention is to be able to have the conversation go to more of a heart space than a head space. And that's really on me to direct the conversation to that space. In my real life, my conversations with people I know and even with people who I'm just getting to know tend to get vulnerable and deep pretty quickly. And ideally, I'd like to replicate that here. Yet, due to the recorded nature of a podcast, I find myself facing this fear and shying away from doing just that. And the fear is not around me not being able to handle it, but it's around what if I make the other person uncomfortable diving into this territory? How is that going to make me look if they're uncomfortable? And that's a strange place to be because vulnerability is uncomfortable. That's the nature of the beast. So the intention of this prologue to this episode is to acknowledge that in order to walk the talk of vulnerability, if I expect my guests to show some real emotional vulnerability while being recorded, I also need to show that vulnerability. What you're about to hear is a conversation between myself and my college roommate, Nate Hall. It was intended to be about music and creativity. But before we got into that topic, we were checking in with each other, catching up. And he asked me how I was doing, and I let him know I wasn't doing well. I was questioning everything I was getting into, and I didn't know what to do with myself or what direction to go. And this conversation took place at the beginning of this whole lockdown. I pride myself on being able to hold space for others and coach them through difficult situations. I've finally come to accept that that's one of my gifts and one of my strengths. And I've got coaches and mentors that I turn to when I need support myself. This conversation was a great reminder for me that wisdom can come from unexpected places, like one of my oldest friends. And the way I was able to access that wisdom was by opening up and being vulnerable. Hello and welcome back to This Naked Voice, a podcast about creativity, connection, vulnerability, and exploring ways in which we might connect more deeply with ourselves and with others. So as you know, this conversation is between myself and Nate Hall. Nate was my college roommate back at the University of Delaware. Since then, he's been one of my closest friends, despite living very separate lives. We met in 2002, and I often think, who was the person that randomly assigned me and Nate to be roommates? Because whoever it was, I want to go and give them a hug. I owe them so much because Nate is someone who has been such a steadfast figure in my life, who has provided me with such fulfillment and love throughout the last 18 years. Nate's a songwriter and a musician. This is his song playing right now in the background. And we bonded over music, especially when we were getting to know each other initially. We learned during the course of this conversation that our first impressions of each other, based on our first phone call all those years ago, were way off.
That's what I think about more than anything. Just how wrong I was. But you were nothing of what I had a very different picture of you, and I told you that.
Oh, me too. But tell me what you thought of me. I don't know what you thought of me.
No, I told you. I thought you were gonna be a blonde surfer boy. That's what I thought you were gonna be.
Blonde surfer boy.
That's what I thought you were gonna be.
Blonde surfer boy, and I thought you were gonna be a white hick. Yeah. For those of you who don't get what's so funny and don't know, Nate and I grew up on Long Island, skinny Guido kid, complete with faint mustache by the time I was 12 years old. And Nate is black, so yeah, first impressions on the phone can be misleading. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I don't know that it is common for men to have close relationships where they feel comfortable enough with each other to share about where they feel they're falling short in life. And my own experience, I think, is a bit skewed because I've been so deeply ingrained in personal growth work, and I've been around other people who are doing their work and feel compelled to drop into that space a bit more. But in general, even men who are in relationship for many, many years, who maybe have been friends since childhood, I don't know that they often will feel comfortable enough to share with each other. Here's where I feel like I don't measure up. Here's where I feel like I'm falling short. And to be clear, this is not about wound worshiping. This is not about staying in that place of negativity and saying, this is what's wrong. This is all the problem. These are all the problems with me. That's something totally different and definitely not helpful. I'm really just speaking to sharing some of the tougher sides of the human experience, which growing up, and in my experience being a man, men don't often share about. But when I do have those relationships, it's precisely because I've gotten to share about the harder sides of my life that when I share about my strengths and my victories, that celebrating them really means something. I don't feel like it's a competition. I feel seen, I feel blessed and loved by these men who hold me in the times when I don't feel perfect. I'm fortunate to count Nate as one of those men in my life. And if you feel like sticking around after the conversation, I left in some music that Nate and I improvised after we got to connect. He was on his Rhodes keyboard and I had my guitar, and we had some fun. So, enjoy. Good.
All right, what are you feeling, Joe? What's on your heart? Talk to me about you.
Getting there, man. Yesterday was a hard day. Yesterday was a really hard day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just like feeling like I was hitting walls left and right. Not sure how to move forward in any way. Like, originally I had planned to go right back into photography this year, and then can't go into photography anymore at the moment. Okay, turn back to coaching. Is coaching really the thing I want to do right now? Not really.
Yeah.
But it's, why not really? Like, I don't know. There's something about like just a fear about getting into it. If I'm doing coaching at my full capacity, I'm going to be loving it. It's this like initial entry into it that I don't want to be doing. Right?
Yeah.
So it's
I get that.
There's a mountain to climb right now that I just don't want to climb, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait for the peak or the summit.
Yeah.
It's a mountain.
But most of the mountain is not the peak.
Exactly. Yeah. Even and let's not even call it peak. Let's just call it like base camp 1, right? Like I like base camp 1's going to be a great place to be, and I just don't know when I'm when to even get there.
I mean, and I'll say, speaking on that, I'm really almost a year and a half into this journey, and I'm still not at base camp, and I'm so frustrated at that. So I get that.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and I hear that entirely. It makes perfect sense. You're climbing the mountain, but like you're being replenished on the way. Like you got water stations, you got like food refills and whatnot, and you got resources coming in. I feel like I'm like, if I start climbing my mountain, like I don't have those. Like I don't have income along the way.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, like that's the crucial difference, is like why I don't want to start climbing this mountain, because like I'm not confident I'm gonna have those resources to refuel along the way. Like, is
Yeah.
money gonna
Yeah.
come in on the climb? Like I know there's resources here at Base Camp 1, and for you, Base Camp 1 must look really beautiful, for
Yeah.
like, but for me, it's like, how am I going to support myself on the way up?
Yeah. No, you are not alone in being in that place. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Let me ask you this question.
yeah.
So, in times when you were feeling super motivated and doing stuff and being very productive, and even in like new things and trying new things, were you consciously thinking of the fact that you felt safe and secure with, if you fell? Was that a conscious thought?
I think part of it now is a maybe a shame thing, where I'm so much older. Like, I don't know that I have fewer uh, any less of a safety net now than I ever did. Like, family's still there, friends are still there, right? But there's a shame piece where it's like, I'm 30, I'm almost 36, right?
Not yet, though. So you're still young. You're
Right.
still young.
So I'm 35, right? There you go. I'm 35. Like, how could I still have no resources as I climb this mountain?
Hey,
So
you were speaking something that I know very well.
yeah.
Very well.
So that's a big piece of it. It's like, there's that shame piece that makes me not want to like try something new and like possibly fail and not have resources along the way.
You are touching on the key piece, because I can relate to that very well. Very well. I think a major difference is that I think you're more consciously thinking about falling or not having resources, even though the situation isn't much different. It's now in your head because you feel like it should be something you can do on your own. Because your situation isn't, like you're saying, it's not that much different if it came down to it.
Right. And there's a piece about years ago, if I failed at something, there were still like a lot of other options that I was interested in the back of my mind. Like, oh, if this doesn't work, there's a couple other things I'm really excited to explore. Like, part of me thinks, if this doesn't work, oh fuck, like, now what? Like, so if I start this journey and I have no resources along the way and it's really hard, it might be hard for a long time, and I might hate it, and I'll have no resources, and then I'll find out this is not what I want to do either.
Yeah.
So is this really worth the mountain?
But
is this
so,
because if I'm not even gonna get to a base camp,
yeah,
then is this worth the mountain?
But you see that you weren't even thinking about that back then. And do you feel like you were more productive then when you weren't thinking about it, or more productive now when you are thinking about
it? So the thing is, there has always existed a payoff in my mind. Even when I was younger. My fear is that there's going to be no payoff.
And why is that a fear now as opposed to then? Because you're older?
Yeah, because I don't see how to pursue the payoff if this fails. The payoff is, the goal is like doing something that I enjoy and being compensated fairly for it. Right? And the compensated fairly for it is like being able to do something that I love throughout my life sustainably is really the payoff. Right? That's it. And if this isn't it, then I don't get that payoff.
But you see that it's all in how you're framing it right now. Because nothing else is different. You're trying to do the same thing you were trying to do then.
No, okay.
You just have relations.
But the difference is, when I was younger,
Uh-huh.
I feel like I had more in the back of my mind of things I could do sustainably that I loved. Right now, I was like, oh, this isn't it, this isn't it, this isn't it. So all of a sudden, like this is like the last thing possible. So it wasn't a worry back then because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna run through all these options of
Right.
trying to do what I love to do. This feels like the last one, and all of a sudden, like everything could get. If this doesn't work, then it's all been for naught. I've made a mistake and I can never have this payoff that I've been hoping for.
All right. So the alternative, if you want to go back, what should you have done? This was all a mistake. So what would have been the right thing if this was a mistake?
That's that's the frightening thing is if this isn't it, then I can't even figure out what it is. Like I don't even know that. So what does that say about me that I couldn't figure out how to give myself the one thing I really wanted. Like I couldn't figure it out. What does that say about me? So that's just like bigger, like, oh my goodness, how how could this possibly be a thing? Like it's
Right.
so frightening to think that I could know myself so poorly to not be able to execute on this most
Well,
basic thing.
but all right.
Like
But this,
cosmically. It's like a cosmic sort
yeah,
of
no,
thing.
I get that. But all right. So my question. I don't think you're answering my question. You're saying that if you try something now and it doesn't work out as being the thing, what what would have been the right thing to do going back? So you're saying if this was wrong, then it feels like all of this was for naught. So what should you have done back then,
Oh,
or
that
something like that?
well, part of this thought process
Huh?
is that no, like those still weren't right. It's not like I made a wrong decision back then.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't make a wrong. So I made all the right decisions, and still, this is what I've ended up with. Oh my goodness, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying, but I mean, I feel like it. First of all, I'm glad to hear you say that it wouldn't have been right back then either.
Right.
So, like I said, it's you're just now on a different point, and so you're framing it differently. But you weren't thinking of it that way back then.
No.
You weren't thinking of it that way.
No, I guess it's just, it was in like it was in the realm of like couldn't even see it as a possibility to be afraid of it because there's no way I could ever get there. Like to run through all these options. There's no way. Like I'm interested in too many things. Like I have too much confidence in myself.
Hmm.
I know myself too well. Whatever
Yeah.
I thought. So it was just unfathomable that it should be a fear.
Yeah.
And especially growing up with the messages that you can do what you want, you can do anything you want to do, believe in yourself, like all these messages that just like
Yeah.
reinstilled that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think again what compounds it is to have judgments about others in life who seem to be doing it effortlessly. Those are just obviously projections. Like I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
that's true, but it certainly seems that way. Like
Yeah.
look at these people living the life of their dreams because they're telling me they're living the life of their dreams.
Who are these people?
Who are these people, right? But they say they
No, I'm
are.
asking you. I'm asking you. Who are these people?
Uh, you know, any number of internet celebrities, right?
Okay.
Or, um, coaches. I've turned my life around. Here's how I did it, right? Living the life of my dreams, loving the job I do, and making all this money, right? Those are people who are claiming I'm living the life of my dreams.
Who are they? Who's in your face? Tell me actual people. I want to know who these people are.
No, they're not physically in my daily life,
Okay.
like geographically in my face.
Right.
They're psychologically in my face. That's what I'm saying. It's the messaging
Right.
that's there. You know,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
presence that I have. So I'm like, oh, everyone, like, look at all these people doing it. I don't have what it takes.
Well, all right. So, but let's get out of this made up people and let's talk about real people.
But they're
Like
not made
people
up.
you, huh?
They're not made up. These are real people, and this is the claim. So I'm not speaking to the validity of it. I'm just speaking to the messaging that has made it harder to hold on to it.
I get that. I get
Yeah.
that. Do you think? I mean, we're talking through this as thoughtfully when so much of this is a heartfelt as a heart conversation.
Yeah.
And so there's two different things. The feeling and the thought thing. They're two different things. Um, I know absolutely what you're talking about as far as the shame piece, because it took me a long time to kind of accept that I was feeling that way, and I don't know that I'm over it, even though I've gotten to a certain level now. It's only been a year, so I don't feel like I didn't feel like it should have taken that long. I feel like Matt, the one who officiated our wedding, got me through a lot of stuff because, and I think we talked about this before. I feel like everybody needs somebody who will be their cheerleader for no good reason, and everybody should pick somebody to be a cheerleader for no good reason, because it's just irreplaceable to have. But I met him, and he had done a million different jobs in his life. He started in architectural salvage when he got out of college, to like running museums in Philly, to working for the mayor to help build up Philadelphia, to now coming back to a small town because he felt like he needed to do this before he retired. And he's somebody who's been just a cheerleader and just has been like, look, it'll work out, it'll be fine. You don't realize it. Like, I'm not worried about you. You'll be fine. And he just constantly said, you don't realize it, but everything is preparation. Everything is preparation for what's next. And also just realizing like things don't happen on your time. They just don't happen on your time. And they're not gonna happen the way that you want them to either. And letting go of some of the control stuff is big, because it's almost good in some ways that you're here because you don't know what is going to be right. I feel like before you kind of probably thought you knew what was going to be right, and now you're just like, no, I don't know, I have no clue. So it's almost a good place because now you can be like, all right, we're just seeing what happens. You can be open to more things, and you're not framing it off of what you thought it was going to be anymore. So that can be a freedom. Right? I mean, I feel like you're in this place, and so you're feeling it as like just a struggle and a bad thing. But let it be a freedom. Let it be a freedom, because things aren't going to work out the way you imagine them. But that doesn't mean they're not going to work out. So I think that's something that has kind of stuck with me from Matt. And so I'm glad we're talking about it, because everything you're feeling is everything I've been feeling. I'd been playing for 10 years and I was still making like not enough money. And I was around people that I didn't like, and they weren't about anything. So I was very much ashamed. And I never talked about it. And you have to take it in, but also like realize like it's not how you pictured it, but it really it's gonna happen in a way that you're not imagining. You just don't know. And that's a freeing thing, and just be open to it, and don't get so beat up by it, because you're here, accept it, you're here. But you got enough people around you, you're not going to fall. So let that be some comfort, and not just run from the shame. But I've been there.
is something about that idea of being freer in the not knowing, as opposed to being so tied in to the one way of knowing this is how I want it to be, this is how it's gonna be. That's so beautiful, and it's
rock and roll
shifting. No, it's so beautiful, Nate. Like that's right. Like the way I want it to be is so confining. That's so not free.
Yeah.
That's so, I don't know if ironic is the word, but
I think a lot of people define freedom by control, and that's not what it is.
Oh, wow. That's pretty it's pretty tectonic, actually.
This is why we should talk more. This is why we got put as roommates.
For this conversation right here, right now.
That's right.
That's
All
it.
right. That's right. That's right.
Where to next? Got no tissues anywhere. Just leaking all over myself.
Just let them fall, Joe. It makes the guitar sound better.
These strings are good because they're coated with mucus. So what just happened there in that conversation? I don't know that I can overstate the importance of what shifted for me in that interaction with Nate. And though what I'm about to share is a direct reflection on my life, I'm also curious to know if it applies to your life in any way as well. Sometimes when I'm stuck in my life, I need to go through an emotional process or an emotional release to actually move forward. And often there's a somatic component involved. So that might mean yelling, screaming, crying, dancing. Sometimes it's hitting something, and ideally that's never anything animate or living. And this all serves to move that emotional energy inside of me. And sometimes moving that energy will allow me then to feel that release, feel that spaciousness, and be able to move forward in my life. I've unstuck whatever felt stuck before. And traditionally, this is where music and creativity comes in my life. This is where I get my release, through writing music and singing. And then other times, there's a mental construct or belief that is so ingrained that it's directing my life in some capacity. In this situation, my belief was something akin to, I should know how my life should unfold and how I should feel about it. And to me, that made perfect sense, because me knowing how my life should unfold was me feeling free and deciding how my life should go. It felt like that was the freedom. I want this, I want that. I think that this is how my life should be. That felt like freedom. And yet, try as I might, I couldn't achieve, I couldn't get there, and I was taking on these beliefs that I'm not good enough. It led to shame, I felt depressed, I really felt lost. And I want to point out that Nate did two really amazing things here. The first one was that he said, hey, I hear you, and you're not alone. In that moment, I had no doubt in my mind that both those things were true. And if that's all that happened, that probably would have been enough. That acknowledgement and validation goes so far when holding space and interacting with someone who I'm trying to have a relationship with and counsel through anything. Just acknowledging that their experience is real and validating that their emotions are warranted. So that was number one. And number two, he showed that he really understood the heart of the matter of everything I was talking about. He said, cool, here's your issue. and hears the truth. And what Nate pointed out so beautifully was that it's actually extremely confining to imagine that I know this defined way is how my life should unfold. And his challenge to me was to let go and open my mind and heart up to the possibility that in me not getting what I want or not knowing how things are going to go, to accept that that can be extremely freeing. That it's actually a world of possibilities that I had never even considered is now open to me. And with my eyes and heart open to that whole new world of possibilities, I actually have true freedom in my life. Thanks for listening to this episode of This Naked Voice. This episode in particular was a special one to me, so thanks for being here. If you like what you're hearing so far, I'd love if you can go and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, and leave a review. As always, any questions, comments, or feedback can be directed to me at info@thisnakedvoice.com. Over time, I'll be posting more photos related to the episodes on our Instagram, which will be This Naked Voice. And our website will contain a lot more information in general, thisnakedvoice.com. So that's it. I'm going to have this music play us out, and if you feel like sticking around, I'm going to put in some music that Nate and I were improvising during our long conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Be good to yourself. Where to next? I got no tissues anywhere. Just leaking all over myself.
Just let them fall, Joe. It makes the guitar sound better.
These strings are good because they're coated with mucus.
Oh, I got my computer so I could plug in. That's the whole reason I got it. I shall return.
For a long time, and from long ago, for a long time, and from far away, from fools and from kings, from pool to wedding rings, and across the earth, and across this time, from across the way, I could read your mind. Sing, stay, baby, stay. Yeah. Singing, stay, baby, stay. stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. When you come around. Singing, stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. Singing, stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. Singing, stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. When you come around. Forget about tonight. Let's move on to the morning. Do you want some juice? Hey, I'll make you some juice. Do you want some sunshine? I can make that happen. So come on, smile at me. Show me those pearly teeth. Show me those wrinkles in your eyes. Show me that sweetness in your memory. And then stay, baby, stay. Singing, stay, baby, stay. Singing, stay, baby, stay. When you come around. Put your foot on the carpet. Let's take it home. We got a here flying carpet. Yeah. Let's fly away home. What can you read in the stars? Do you know who you are? What will you know when you stand? And can you read it in the stand? Let's stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. Singing, stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. Stay, baby, stay, baby, stay. When you come around. Nathan, take it somewhere. I'm stuck in the go.
I'm enjoying listening to you. See, this is my hurdle. I haven't sung in a year, and so I don't know how to. I don't feel comfortable singing anymore.
We're just in a rhythm here. Just close your eyes and see where the dark takes you. What do you see? What stories unfold? Where do you go when you rock and roll? You know? Can you feel the bricks beneath your feet? Can you feel that road underneath your toes? Do you know where you might end up on that road you're on and where it goes? Take my hand, dear brother. Let's walk down this lonely road. Take my hand, my brother. Let's walk down this lonely road together. Take my hand, my brother. Take my hand, my brother. Take my hand, my brother. Let's walk down this lonely road together.
You got a good chorus there.
Take it somewhere.
You gotta warm me up, Joe. I gotta follow you
I
for a
haven't
little
warmed you up enough.
Nope.
I've been improvising for 20 minutes.